What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. Today you're here with D-Boy, and we are back with you guys with a very interesting video that I've got lots of questions about and finding the time to get into it, and that is getting into premium. So now, because the V format is pretty much done, at least for the competitive scene, lots of people are thinking about playing a little bit of premium. And to get into premium, it's not that easy. It's not like standard or V. There is a lot that you need to do, what you need to understand to be able to get into premium. And one of the things that we will do in this video is I will show you how to get the cards to get into premium and what cards you need. This is of course Spike Brother version. And Spark Brothers is actually a very, very, very good clan to get into premium with. Why? Because it's aggressive, it's diverse, and it does give you the opportunity to learn how other deck work. And what do I mean? Well, pretty much when you get into premium, there are some decks that you could play that doesn't let the opponent play. Like for example, Meikoni as a plan and Gridora as a stride. But you also have cards like Chaos Breaker, which also it intervenes so much with your opponent play that you will not let them play the game. Spike Brothers, on the other hand, is actually a very aggressive clan. So you will play V in the early game, and then you will jump into some of your strides that actually it's more of a V plus deck. That's what we called in the early days of V. So in Spike Brothers in Premium, if you haven't seen the video that I made on the channel, I've explained that there are multiple decks that you could make. And in those decks, you have two ways that you could separate your decks. The first one is the Turbo deck, and the other one is the Aggro deck. In the Aggro deck, you have different versions. And in the Turbo deck, of course, you also have different versions. So these are basically the two decks that you could make. In the Turbo, as I said, there are different ways you could build your deck. You could make it Turbo Hybrid, you could make it Aggro Turbo, you could make it Control Turbo, you could make it Slow Control Turbo. We could take another time to talk about these. I've already made a series of 4 videos that talk about the Turbo deck, and I've also made a series of only one video that talks about the Aggro deck. In the Aggro deck, you will find yourself building the deck as I explained in that video that I could put in the description section for you guys below, that you could build your deck with multiple main grade 3s. Like you could build it with Greedon, so you will have a Greedon Rising Max hybrid deck that will focus on, if you ride first, you will basically ride into your Rising Nova, the V version, and then you will copy the Greedon and the Max to make a very strong Vanguard attack that could attack 2 or 3 times. And in that deck, you will basically focus on that first turn, and then after that, you will move the markers that you have with your Vanguard with like a Dudley Mason B version or another card that will move the markers, and then you move them to the side, and then you will continue on with your aggressive strides like Galley Gabrius. You have another version that plays Bruce. The Bruce version is the one that pretty much rely on Julian to make the combo of Julian and the Instructor, which is your stand trigger to multi-attack, and that's also a very, very, very strong deck. But it's inconsistent as hell. You could also work cards in that deck like the Break Ride, Bad and Dragger, the old version, and that would work. But the one deck that works best, in my personal opinion, is the deck that plays the G Rising Nova. And also, it's the deck that shows the best and the most characteristics of original Spike Brothers. And that deck is the deck that we will be focused on in this video, or in this series of videos. Well, this deck is actually quite strong. It could play old cards like the Star, it could play a lot of cards from V, and pretty much focuses on cards like these, like the Ambush Dexter, the Mega Instructor are the cards that actually put in the work. And with your old G Rising Nova, the deck will be able to get into the first stride, even if your opponent's on grade 2. You make markers, you attack a lot. And with that, you will be able to secure the win, or wait into your second stride and then kill them. So this is the deck that we will be building in this video. Alright guys, so now we have talked about which deck we will do, and now this series of videos will start. First of all, and one of the important things when people try to build their deck is, what cards do we need? Well, this is the first question that I get when people ask me, yo D-Boy, what cards do you think that we need? And that's what we do in this video. So there are not many cards from Overdress that you need building this deck. Maybe if you build a Greedon deck, then yes, but in this deck, not really. Of course, there are some stables like your Regalia pieces, but we will talk about that later. First of all, the old cards that you need. Well, we will go through binders of V and G, and we will talk about the cards that you need to build your deck. So here we have the G binder. Of course, these are the base rarities, as in the higher rarities are in the other binder. So now let's see which cards do we need to be able to build this beautiful deck. So here you see some of your strides. One of the cards that you could use in this deck, and it's an important card as well, is of course your Firmios. Firmios is a stride that actually could help you against certain clans like Mega Colony, for example, that you could not call from the deck. With this card, you could call from the hand. What he does is pretty much, of course, he has the stride ability, so he stride, and then after that, he said when the attack of a rear guard on a circle with a marker does not hit, you Soul Blast 2, you turn a card from your G-Zone face up, you draw a card, and then you call a card from your hand to a rear guard circle. So for that, you actually will be able to use your soul to make more attacks, and you draw out of your deck, and you also flip out of your G-Zone, which gets you closer to the GB8. There are another card that you could use in this deck, Miracle Ace, but I would not advise you to. It's an older stride, but there are strides that work better now than Miracle Ace. You also have Violence Ace. It's always good to have a copy of him in the deck. He could help you to draw cards. He could help you to also make some multi-attacks also from the hand. So it's another card that you could always play a copy of in your deck, which is always good. If you could get your hands on one, you need two Shutdown King Miracle Ace, then I would get 2 of those as well. These are the Dudley Stride, you don't need them. You don't need Supernova, and Bertie Piccolo, you could always, if you can, get a copy of him, because it's also another stride that you do use in the deck, especially in some situations that you will need him. But most of the time, he will not be a card that you'll put in your deck. The only card from this first sheet that you really need is Violence Ace, a copy of, or 2, and a Miracle Ace. Violence Ace, a copy of, or 2. So Firmios and Violence Ace. And then this is a bonus, this is a bonus. Alright, next. We have right here is Agrius. Now, Agrius was a card that we used a lot in the early games, especially because we had Gabrius. But now, because we have this card, there is no reason to play Agrius anymore. So what Agrius does is when he attacks, count +1, and he could bind and recall your rare guards again. And then if you bind and record 3, then if you bound 3, you could recall them. So it's pretty good to charge your units the same as Supernova. But nowadays, because we have cards like Gabrius, there is no way to play Agrius. Gabrius is just by attacking your Soul Blast 1, you could call 2 cards from your deck. And the good thing about him is he doesn't cost Counterblast, while this one does. And also he calls from the deck, while this just binds and calls your rear guard. Also, Gabrius gives them the boost ability, which means that if you call grade 3s in the back row to countercharge or whatever, or to recall them later, then they could at least still boost. Also, he gives everything that attacks plus 10k and then put it back into the bottom of the deck, which makes your turn way stronger than with Agrius. Of course, you need the Flash Bruce. You need a 2 copy of him. There's no reason to have 4 because this is the cards that give you the markers. So if you want to stride while your opponent's on grade 2, you need to go to your Rising Nova, the G1, the G version, and then he will be able to give you the ability to stride while your opponent's on grade 2. So that's one of the cards that you use. And then you need, of course, always a copy of the GB8. If you could get 2 right away, because maybe in the future you will build the GB8 deck, you could get 2, but 1 is definitely a must in every Spikeworth deck. So one of this, 2 or 3 of these is good, and for Agrius get 2 as well, because there are some situations that in some metas that you will maybe want to play it. For your G guards, get 1 Hagatungus, get a 1 or 2 queens. I think 1 is enough for this deck, but maybe if you build a GB8, you will need a second one. They are not expensive, so if sometimes you could get your hands on more, then that's fine as well. So 2 of this, 1 is enough, but 2 of her, 1 Gus, and Max you don't need. Irie you also don't need, but if you can get them, why not? But you don't need them. For Terrible Lioness, get 3. Important, because whenever you build your GB8 deck, you will need 3. For this deck, you play 2. So if you can't get them, get 3. Alright, let's see what we have next. So this is when we come to the Risings. These are, of course, the older Rising. For G Rising, you have him in lower rarity, you have him in SP, you have him in whatever. So get them, get just 4 of them. You don't need 4, but get 4 of them because it's easy to get. For a star, get 2. It's a card that you could play in this deck, so I would advise you to get 2. Alright. Then we get into the older cards. You don't need any of them. If you want to get the break right, so if you have Bruce cards and you want to build the Bruce deck in the future, you could get 4 of this, but it's not really needed. Any other cards from the old cards that you need? Well, there are some cards that have some very interesting combos that you could do, but you don't add them to the deck because they just make the deck inconsistent. You want to get 4 Jelly Beans, because if you want to build your Turbo 8 deck, then you would need him. Anything else from this page? You have Wingkiller Misery. Is a very interesting card that could fit into a lot of Spikeworth decks. If you could get her, get a 2 copy or a 4 copy of her. You will not play her that fast in the deck, but she could be a very interesting bonus to add in. Axe Diver is an interesting project, especially with Lethal Forward. If you could get them together, I will get just a 4/4 because again, they're really not expensive. Laser Blackguard is a good card. There will be moments where this card will come in back into the deck, but for now I don't think so, because we do have better options that cost a Count Blast. And again, to make the deck consistent, you don't really need them. Mayhem Tiger, if you get your hands on some of these, I would get just 4 copies of. You will never play 4, but there will be some situations where this card will come back and it's very good. You want to get 1 Old Jumbo the Stun Gun for this deck. It's actually a necessary key piece. You will see that in the combo video that this card actually does make a big difference. Dudley Mason, well, if you could get your hands on those, I will always try to, but you will not play it in this deck, so there's no reason. This is the only card that you will play in this deck. Alright, nothing from here that you want to play. We get to the PGs, also again, nothing from here that you want to play. We get into other cards. You can have Rogue Raider. It's a very good card that works with charge units. You could play it in this deck. It could make a big difference, but we don't play it in this deck. The reasons is very simple. You don't have the right placement on your fields to have the full benefits out of the Rogue Raider. And also to have him on the field, you will need to sacrifice a call, and that call could... You would rather have something like a Mega Instructor that could recall, make more attacks. He basically makes stronger attacks, and instructor makes more attacks. A fake bomber is an interesting card. If you get your hand on some of him, I would just get it. It's very cheap, but it could sometimes, you will maybe play it. I don't think so for a while, but hey, you never know. Frog Raider is the same. I would try to get some if you have the option to get them. Acrobat Verdi, get 4. You have in a more beautiful rarity, which is also not expensive, so get that. Nothing from the older cards. If you want to get Baton Dragger and Masons, then get that flag 2 or 4 copies of him. 2 are enough in my opinion. These are just for the old days. For the starters, you could get the Mega Trainer, get a copy or 2 or whatever. If you want to build the turbo in the future, then it's a card that you actually would like to have in the deck. Other starters right here, of course, you have the Mega Analyzer. It's another interesting card that you could put in the deck, but again, you don't play it, you just play the V starter. For the heals, this is a heal that of course you want to play. Or you want to get, because she works with a GB8, so you get 4 copies of her. The new one with the 15k shield, it's better because it has the Rata on it. Mega Instructor, you need 4. This card, you need 4 for this deck. Devil Watch, you could add 1, but you will not use it, so the Mega Instructor is important in this deck. Alright, anything else? Yes, of course, you have the new Liar Lips heal crits that act as a draw in your damage and a crit when you drive check them. Get the new ones with the 15k shield as well. These are good. Other cards, you can have this as well, which acts as the pay for the cost for strides. You could add a copy or 4 of her, but it's not really needed. The same goes for your Silent Jokers or for this boy, Slaughterback. Oh, have been a while since I've seen this guy, but Liar Lips is an important one on this page. Alright, anything else? No, not really, not from G. So that was actually it for the G cards that you would rather, that you want to get to be able to build the deck. Of course, we will go into the deck. I will show you the deck as well, so that you know what I mean. But I want you guys to get more cards than what you need to build the deck, so you can have the flexibility to build it the way you want to. So that's actually it for the cards from G. In the next video, we will jump into the cards from V, and we will talk about those and the cards that you want to add to the deck. And in the third video, I will show you the deck itself and some cards that you need from Overdress to build your deck. So there was a faster video that I showed you which cards you need from G to be able to build your deck. That's actually it. If you're interested and you're very hyped to see the next video, let me know in the comment section below, because this video will be up in like 2 or 3 days, so it will not take long. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for tuning in our channel. Hope that you enjoyed this video. So we'll see you next time. Till next time.